Erev Shabbos. You took a poll among the public, among people like me who are not at all experts in classic English literature. If you took a poll about which supporting characters, other than the famed fictional couple themselves, would have the most dialogue in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, right? Other than Romeo and Juliet, most of us would assume it would be blood relatives of the titular characters of somebody in either the Montague or Capulet families. After all, the tension in the play is created by the rivalry between the Montague and Capulet families, whose feud keeps the young lovers from being together. But it turns out that the character with the third most lines in the play after Romeo and Juliet themselves is Juliet's nurse. The nurse plays a critical role in the story as the middleman between the lovers and doing everything she can to benefit Juliet's happiness, even at her own expense. Over the course of the play, she is revealed to have suffered great personal loss, and she also ends up mourning Juliet, to whom she clearly has been a mother figure even more than Lady Capulet herself. Though it is impossible to know with certainty whether Shakespeare had the Bible in mind when he created the nurse character, scholars such as Professor Meir Gruber of Ben Gurion University have noted the potential parallel between this character and one that is found in the Torah reading for this Shabbat morning. In the aftermath of the kidnapping and sexual assault of Dinah, Yaakov's daughter, and her brother's subsequent slaughter of the city of Shechem, Yaakov and his family head for Beit El, to build an altar to God as a memorial for the kindness he had shown them in protecting them from danger. And after the Mizbeach is completed and dedicated, that section of the story ends with a seeming non sequitur. Batamat Dvorah meineket Rivka batikaver mitachat Beit El tachat ha'alon vayikrosh alon dachut. Dvorah, Rivka's nurse, died and was buried under the oak below Beth El, so it was named Alon Bakot. And the commentators note that this seems out of place for a number of reasons. First of all, why is Dvorah with Yaakov's family if she was his mother's nurse? Shouldn't she be with Rivka or have remained in Haran where Rivka grew up? Moreover, her passing seems like a really unimportant detail, particularly at this point in the story. When else does the Torah mention the wet nurses or other servants associated with the family by name, much less memorialize their passing? Regarding why she was with Yaakov's family, Ramban suggests that Devorah decides to leave Haran with Yaakov's family when they flee from Lavan because she wants to see Rivka after all these years, or because she wants to continue raising Rivka's family's children, Yaakov's sons and daughter. But a number of midrashim suggest that this nurse is the same woman who was sent from Haran to Canaan with Rivka on her initial journey with Eliezer to marry Yitzchak. Vayishlach et Rivka achutam, when her family sent off their sister Rivka, they sent her off with Vet Menikata. They sent her off with her nursemaid, with her nurse. Vet Aved Abraham et Anashav, with Avram's servant and his men. And if that's the case, if it's the same woman, it's possible that Devorah helped raise not only Rivka, but Yaakov and Esav as well. One midrash cited by Rashi suggests that though she does not go to Haran initially with Yaakov, when Rivka realizes that Yaakov does not appear to be returning on his own back to Canaan, she sends Devorah to retrieve him and bring him back home. Rav Moshe Tzvi Neria points out that Devorah would be the perfect person for this mission, given her deep familiarity with both the family values of Yaakov and those of Lavan and Haran. Unfortunately, however, she never makes it home, and she dies during her time with Yaakov's family. However, we are still left with an important question. Why is her death emphasized, especially at this point in the story? Why do we need to know about Devorah and her mission? Rashi introduces one potential answer. He writes that the Torah does not mention Devorah's passing for her own sake, but rather to serve as a placeholder, a stand-in for Rivka's passing. The Torah explicitly mentions Sarah's and Rachel's deaths, but not Rivka's. Rashi says that the Torah wanted to avoid mentioning her burial place so that the people would not go and curse her for giving birth to Esav and the evil that his descendants brought on the world. Ramban instead argues that the Torah is hinting that she died before Yaakov got home and was buried by Esav, an undignified ending to her life that the Torah did not want to mention explicitly. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch writes that perhaps the Torah wants to emphasize that the respect and mourning demonstrated by Yaakov for Dvorah was his way of honoring his mother, his way of honoring Rivka when he learned of her death. He knew how much his mother loved her nurse, loved Dvorah, and felt that this was an appropriate way to bury and memorialize his mother as well. Similarly, Roy Kamran of Yeshivat Har Etzion writes that by mentioning Dvorah's passing, the Torah is emphasizing Rivka's role in protecting Yaakov. His flight to Haran was not only a journey through which he would begin the process of transforming his family into a nation, it was also the loving sacrifice of a mother for her son, not just a fateful event in Jewish history. Soloveitchik, however, provides another important perspective, the important role of Dvorah herself. After all, how is it that Rivka could grow up in the home of Betuel and Lavan and still end up the strong-willed but extraordinarily kind and religious woman she became? What influence did she have in her life? It must be that Dvorah was the more influence she needed. After all, when Rivka meets Eliezer and gives her gifts in return for her kindness, who does she run to tell? Not her mother, says the Torah, but Beit Ima, her mother's household. Probably her mother's servant Dvorah. Like the nurse in Romeo and Juliet, she was the true mother figure for Rivka and played a pivotal role in making the formation of the Jewish people possible. If so, Yaakov may not have only been memorializing his mother. Yaakov memorializes the woman, Dvorah, who helped to raise both his mother and him, who herself sacrificed so much to ensure their future. She even died on that mission on her way to bring Yaakov and his family to Canaan. She deserves to be remembered and celebrated, even if she only appears in the Torah a few times and only once by name. The Torah pauses in the middle of the action for one pasuk, so we do not forget her invaluable contribution to who Yaakov was as a person and to who we are as a nation. In 1997, during the Emmy Award ceremony, Fred Rogers received the Lifetime Achievement Award for his children's television show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. The award was a surprise to him and his family, and he did not seem to have a prepared speech. But when he ascended to the podium, what he said was unique and remarkable in the context of a Hollywood awards show. He said, "All of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you just take, along with me, 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are, those who have cared about you and wanted what was best for you in life. 10 seconds of silence. I'll watch the time." And then, after 10 seconds of silence, during which tears began to stream down every attendee's face, he commented, "Whomever you've been thinking about, think about how pleased they must be to know the difference you feel that they've made." When I was in high school, I finished learning a short tractate of Talmud on my own. I was very shy and did not want to make a big deal about it, but I wanted to know whether a siyum was halachically necessary or whether I could just move on to the next thing. I asked my principal, Rabbi Yisrael Kamenetsky, whether a siyum was required. He told me to come to school the next day, prepared to make a siyum. He brought our Talmud class into the shul and gave me the shtender, allowing me to teach the last lines of the tractate and recite the Hadran. What happened next has never left me. After I finished speaking, he led us in singing, wished me mazel tov, and brought us into his office for a surprise box of donuts for the class as a celebration. I still well up with tears when I think about this act of kindness, and there's no question that that moment is part of what motivated me to become a rabbi and Torah educator. All of us have a Dvorah in our lives, a parent, grandparent, an uncle, aunt, a teacher, a friend, who mentored us, who helped shape us. All of us have people who did something that transformed us into the good and decent people we are. And every so often, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, maybe once a year, we should pause to think about those people, to dedicate one pasuk to them, 10 seconds of silence. May Hashem give us the awareness and humility to show such gratitude and appreciation for the people who, like him, loved us into being. Good Shabbos, and be safe.